Al, it's been a wild week. We've got so many announcements that we've got to get through. It's finally here. It's time to talk about E3 again. I mean,
Is it?
today is the official opening. Day one is happening right now as we're recording this. It probably just ended a couple hours ago. You know, can you believe all that news we got? Can you believe the Xbox Series X news? That PlayStation 5 news? Nintendo did something? Can you believe Square's press conference? It's
Ugh.
wild. Wild. I can't believe they did that.
Ugh.
Yeah, of course. There's no E3.
No.
But that's what we'd be talking about around this time if
If we
the
had an
world
E3.
if the world resembled the normalcy of last year.
It's bad when last year looks normal.
Ugh. But yeah, of course that's not happening. So I think as the months progress over the summer and we get like all those big announcements, we'll probably just like have a little chit chat about stuff as they happen.
Yeah, that's what I figure.
Because like next week we'll probably talk a little bit about the PS5 news and whatever else. Specifically, probably also the fact that a certain JRPG is getting ported to the personal computer, so people can enjoy homophobia for the first time on the personal computer.
That's true. Oh, for the first time, really? Wait.
No, the first time ever.
Have you been on a personal computer?
But for now, we're instead going to talk about a rather large game.
Mm-hmm.
Was this announced last year at E3 as being made? No, it was announced in September. It was announced during I think that September Direct last year that was bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that's the one that had the Tokyo Mirage Sessions re-release. The Terry Bogard officially announced the Deadly Premonition 2 trailer.
Yep.
Like God, I went back and watched some of that Direct a little bit ago, and it's still bonkers. But yeah, this is the thing I think they ended with, and you were like, "Wah!" Except
Yeah.
not that subdued.
No, it wasn't that subdued.
It was more just like I can't get that shrill. So
Real.
shrill.
Yeah, it's hard work being high pitched screeching.
It's true.
Mhm.
But yeah, we're gonna talk about a long game that's been re-released for the second time,
And a side story.
and a new addition to it. That is Xenoblade Chronicles. The game that originally came out on the Wii. Oh, by the way, this is a podcast where we talk about video games, anime, manga. It's the season lemon Checkup OVA. It's episode 183, I think.
I think it's 183. What is
yes.
it? Okay.
83. I'm Jared. That's Doc Howe and Ladium.
Hello.
Hello. I forgot to set us up there.
You're good.
Yes. Xenoblade Chronicles. It's a game that came out like 10 years ago.
Yeah, it came out in Japan in 2010.
Tomorrow is the literal 10-year anniversary of this game coming out in Japan. So as we're recording this, so it'll be this past Wednesday.
Holy moly.
It came out on June 10th, 2010 for the Wii in Japan, August 19th, 2011 for European regions, September 1st, 2011 in Australia, and April 6th, 2012 in North America, which is a weird thing.
Well, it wasn't going to be localized here.
But still, like, even in 2010, that seems bizarre.
Which thing?
That they would localize it for like Europe and Australia, but then wait even longer for it to come out over here.
Yeah, I mean, what was the called? It was like Operation, like something to do with rain, maybe?
Excuse me, hang on. I saw it in here a little bit ago. Operation Rainfall.
I was right. So Operation Rainfall was trying to get the last story and another Wii game released in the US because they had been released in Europe, but not here.
Right, but like it just doesn't. Pandora's Tower is the other game.
Thank you.
Like I don't even understand why you wouldn't just do the business if you've already localized it into the language that people in North America speak. Like, I don't see how that would be that huge of an undertaking to put it out over here in 2010.
Yeah, it was wild.
Or excuse me, in 2011, 2012, basically. But yeah, that's bonkers.
It was.
I think I heard that was the reason why it has like the more like European style of voice acting, like sounding voice acting, is because they didn't want to localize it or redub it, I guess, for North America.
Yeah, that's why they all have like versions of like British accents.
It's still like it's weird, very
Yeah.
weird. It was then re-released 5 years later for the new Nintendo 3DS.
Mm-hmm.
One of the 5 games that took that like that piece of hardware's the newness of it and actually benefited from it.
Mm-hmm.
It came out in Japan on April 2nd, 2015. PAL regions also on April 2nd, 2015, and then in North America on April 10th, 2015. And then finally, another 5 years later, comes to the Switch on May 29th, 2020 worldwide.
Mm-hmm.
What a weird... It's weird. You have played every version of this game that's come out.
Every version of it. So I've actually followed Operation Rainfall and was like really, really dying to play this game. So when it finally got announced that it was going to come over, it was a GameStop exclusive, so I had to get it from there.
Even more weird.
Yeah, it was very, very odd. But so I got it from there, and I had the art book that came with it and everything. And my first go through, I played it for like 140 hours, and I loved it.
I didn't mean to cut you off, but like the way that like this came out over here, it seems like it was like some weird indie game that came out,
right?
Not like a Nintendo backed huge thing.
It's so weird, right?
Like it's bizarre. Let me ask you this, because you said you were very into like the thing about getting this over here and everything. Were you a big fan of the previous like Xeno games then? Before this, or was it just like something about this that made you be like, oh, I want to play this?
No, I had played them. I wasn't like huge into them, but what were the ones that were on PS2? Saga,
and then Xenogears was on PS1.
I didn't play Xenogears until later, but Saga I did play, and I was like, I really like these, and so this was coming out, and I was like, yes.
Okay.
But also just it looked really, really cool.
Okay.
So I liked the idea.
I don't know if we talked about this when it came out, but the new 3DS version.
Mm-hmm.
What was like was there any big changes to that version compared to like how the Switch version is like upgrades all like the visuals and everything and adds a bunch of quality of life stuff? It's basically just the Wii version on the 3DS.
Yes.
Okay. Because I couldn't remember if there was actually anything they did to that or not.
Not that I remember, because
let me see if this says anything about that.
Like, this was an overhauled version, essentially.
Mm-hmm. So they did a thing where they moved on-screen information to the second screen, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
They had to do some funky stuff to maintain the frame rate, apparently. And I guess like the big problem was getting the scale of the game down to small.
Down to small.
Yeah.
But yeah, there wasn't anything that was like really changed, and so like this one really changed a lot.
Let me read you this last tidbit about why they put it on the 3DS.
Okay.
The reason given for porting the game to the new 3DS rather than the Wii U home console was that the length of the game could be intimidating for the modern gamer who is becoming more used to on-the-go quick gaming sessions. Which I don't think makes any sense at all.
No.
Especially like to be fair, we're going to talk about this later, but like I can't imagine playing this game of all games on a handheld.
I did.
For 100 hours.
I did.
Like, that sounds insane.
Some have said that about me.
Oh, boy. But I mean, they put that game on the 3DS. Even though it was, like I said, like one of 5 games that, like, took advantage of the new 3DS hardware. Mm-hmm. And it was also, like, a new 3DS exclusive. Because you could not play it on the older systems. Because, God, that was dumb. The new 3DS, a fantastic console. New 3DS, stupid. Absolutely stupid. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about the development about this game because there's a lot of paragraphs about this.
All right, cool. Let's do it.
Xenoblade Chronicles is developed by Japanese development company Monolith Soft, with Tetsuya Takahashi forming the original concept and serving as the game's executive director. Takahashi had previously worked in the 1990s on Xenogears, then on the Xenosaga trilogy after founding Monolith Soft in 1999. Because Xenogears was a Square game, right? Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Final Fantasy VII.
Huh.
I'm not joking. It was.
I'm not saying you aren't. That's the weird thing.
It was originally supposed to be Final Fantasy VII. They're like, actually, let's make that its own thing.
Xenosaga was intended to be a 6-part series, but low commercial performances forced the planned Xenosaga series to be halved. After these events, the entire development team was in a state of low morale. The initial concept for Xenoblade Chronicles of people living on the bodies of gigantic gods came to Takahashi in June 2006. Struck by his idea, he immediately committed it to paper and showed the draft to other senior staff who were favorably impressed. One of them, an executive named, that's probably the better way to put that. Yasuyuki Han thought it would make a good 3D model and brought materials to create it. Construction began in July. During this period, younger staff acted as models so that Takahashi could establish which parts of the gods' bodies could be used as habitable and navigable environments in various poses.
That's cool.
We need you to come over here and just hold this pose for 3 hours.
Well, I'm looking at the picture of this thing, and that's wild.
Yeah. After the model's construction, Takahashi decided to combine the model's concept with an unrelated story idea, which became the basis for a new game after positive feedback from staff. Takahashi later said that one of the main reasons for developing the game was to bolster team morale after the commercial failure of the Xenosaga games. The team first showed their proposal to Nintendo prior to the first development stages of Disaster Day of Crisis. Development began over 4 years prior to its release, with the first prototypes for the game being developed in April 2007. It was at this point that co-director Genki Yokota was brought in by Nintendo to handle any system-related issues due to his previous experience with RPGs. After being contracted regarding both Xenoblade Chronicles and fellow Wii JRPG The Last Story, head of Nintendo's licensing department Shinji Hatano said that the games should be made for a wide audience and using a romanticist approach. Takahashi was involved in every aspect of the game's development, from its initial concept to the debugging stage. At the beginning of the development, the game was said to be a standalone title unrelated to the Xeno series, bearing the title Monado, the Beginning of the World.
Mm-hmm.
Later, that's a funky name. Later, the Nintendo president Satoru Iwata had the title changed to its current one to honor both Takahashi's previous titles and the effort he was investing in Xenoblade Chronicles. According to Takahashi, the Xeno designation was more along the lines of a symbol, calling back to the previous works of Monolith Soft. When describing the title's meaning, Takahashi described Xeno as meaning different nature or uniqueness, while the blade part was closely tied to the narrative, particularly the game's ending. A key element of the game for Takahashi was creating an ideal balance between gameplay and story, something that he felt was lacking in other JRPGs, which focused too much on story. Takahashi's previous experiences with the Xenosaga games and Baten Kaido's Eternal Wings and the Lost Ocean, that's a mouthful of a title, which had been called out for being old-fashioned when compared to other RPGs of the day, influenced his work in this regard. The mechanic of Shulk getting glimpses of the future became the foundation of the entire battle system. Takahashi briefly experimented with a turn-based system that incorporated the feature, but it did not work out. In a separate issue, Takahashi decided against a transition between the environment and battle areas. He felt such a transition would negatively interrupt the flow of gameplay.
Good call.
The game features a fully open world, which was described by Takahashi as overwhelming, like an MMORPG, describing the world size as being roughly equivalent to the Japanese archipelago. The scale of the world was derived from Takahashi's wish to showcase the grandeur of the experience. In addition to this, the number and length of cutscenes was cut down significantly from those present in the Xenosaga games, with Takahashi considering such a development method as having become a dead end. The wish for an expansive world also became tied up with the wish to reward players for exploration, which entailed the creating of huge amount of content creation such as items and accessories. The gameplay was influenced both by previous Japanese RPGs and Western RPGs. When the team ran into difficulties, Takahashi went into Nintendo in a deflated state to suggest numerous means of meeting the game's projected deadline. Yamagami rejected all of Takahashi's proposals and instead insisted the team persist with their vision, saying he would persuade Nintendo to continue supporting them.
It's a weird way to end the development.
It is. I like how he's like, oh, I wanted to make a new JRPG kind of battle. It's like, dog, you were just influenced by MMOs. Just say that.
Yep.
That's it. You don't have to sugarcoat it. You want to talk about these scenario? Some more paragraphs?
Okay. Wait,
I'll
are
try
we
not
talking
to
about
see.
the story or is this something different?
This is the scenario. It's in the development. So probably the story. Not the plot, but like how they came up with
Oh, okay.
the story and stuff. The scenario is created by Takahashi Yuichiro Takeda and Yuri Hattori. Takahashi was responsible for creating the main concept, but as he was going to be director and executive producer, he was unable to take on full script writing duties, so he asked Takeda to be his partner in creating the scenario. Takeda was a writer for anime who had previously collaborated with Takahashi on adaptations of the first Xenosaga game, in addition to writing the script for Xenosaga 1 and 2, the Nintendo DS remake of Xenosaga, and its sequel. Takahashi deliberately chose someone outside the video game industry as he wanted a different perspective on the story's pacing. Hattori was brought in during the early development stages due to her experience in scenarios for Nintendo games. Yeah. Which enabled her to look at Takahashi and Takeda's scenario from an objective viewpoint. A key element in the scenario is a contrasting series of scale, which Takahashi described as contrasting the realms of the micro and macro, while the main story themes were characters embarking on a great and evolving journey and overcoming a predetermined future. Despite multiple fantasy elements, Xenoblade Chronicles is based within a science fiction premise, although such elements were kept low-key during the first part of the game. Not low-key.
Low-key.
Despite their earlier work together, it was the first time Takahashi and Takeda were so intimately involved in the project. Takeda found working on the project more difficult than he initially anticipated. His standard writing form was for the anime series format, which was limited to 20 to 25-minute episodes. With Xenoblade Chronicles, the volume of story and writing was much larger and offered more freedom for dramatic expression. Conversely, his previous experience enabled Takahashi to easily plan the structure and scheduling for the game. During the initial writing stages, Takahashi did not give precise instructions to Takeda. He instead gave a rough outline that they would work on together. Then they passed the developing script between themselves, along with producers Shingo Kawabata and Ko Kojima, to iron out rough elements. Takahashi compared it to playing a game of catch, something he was unused to doing for his game scenarios. The ending underwent revisions. While Takahashi and Takeda felt that they had created a fairly explanatory ending, Hattori still felt unsatisfied. After a second look, Takahashi and Takeda realized that it would appear perplexing for someone outside the writing process, so they rewrote it to be more player-friendly. The final script contained a large amount of dialogue. The sheer volume, which included dialogue spoken in battle, made for a difficult experience while recording. Due to all this effort, Takahashi was emphatic that as much of it as possible be used, although he sometimes felt that there was too much. In the end, some dialogue needed to be cut as testers felt that the characters talked too much. Takahashi's overall writing style was made deliberately more mature and subdued than the other games within the genre. One of the elements that was of great concern to both Takahashi and Takeda was the main protagonist, Shulk. Takahashi had noticed in the majority of RPGs, the main protagonist was all too easily disliked, even if other characters became fan favorites. Consequently, one of the main priorities was to make Shulk as appealing as possible to players. During this process, it was suggested that Shulk be a silent protagonist, but there was a general wish from the staff for him to speak. In addition to this, Takahashi needed to confront the problem faced in any RPG with voice characters, which is developing them suitably and writing appropriate dialogue between them. The companion character Riki was cited by Takeda as a favorite of his, obviously so. On paper, Riki sounded like an unlikable character, but his voice and appearance acted as a counterbalance to his remarks. One of the scenes where Hattori had input was a scene between Shulk and Fiora, which showcased their connection. The original scene has Shulk touching Fiora's cheek, which Hattori felt would look creepy coming out of the blue. The scene was altered so Shulk touched her hand instead. One of the early concepts Takeda suggested was that the main protagonist party would betray them and become the final boss, but Takahashi rejected this idea as he felt it would run counter to the player expectation. During the course of its development, the story underwent so many revisions that Takahashi forgot what his original concept was, although the basic framework remained intact throughout. I find that kind of interesting, at least like that last part, because they talk about how they don't want Shulk to be like kind of like unlikable, but I feel like him being in Smash has made him like somewhat unlikable by people. Just because I don't know, like for some reason people just like look at him as just, oh, he's the Smash guy now. And not see him as like from where his actual game is.
Yeah. So
I think that's rather interesting.
I love Shulk.
You do love Shulk.
He's so good. What a good boy.
Also, it's funny how they talk about how the characters talk too much, and it's like they still kind of talk a lot, especially in battle.
I like it.
Let's talk about music here for a little bit.
Okay.
The original score for Xenoblade Chronicles was composed by Manami Kiyota, Ace Plus, a musical production group composed of Tomori Kudo, Hiroyo Chiko Yamanaka, and Kenji Hiramatsu, and Yoko Shimomura. As with other parts of development, Takahashi was deeply involved, constantly rejecting pieces due to what he felt was not fitting for the game. He admitted that was due to early samples that he had given the team for his vision for the music, which they had followed too faithfully for his liking. At Takahashi's request, Nobuo Uematsu's record label Dog Ear Records assisted with production, which I think is obviously probably a thing as well, because like one of the dudes from Ace Plus is in Uematsu's band.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's just an easy connection you can make.
Yeah.
The music team was led by Shimomura, who was initially very confused by the odd naming of tracks, along with getting the opportunity of using sounds not normally used in compositions in her other projects, such as electric guitars.
Yeah.
Kyoto had only previously done superficial work on video game titles. She accepted Dog Ear Records' offer for her to compose music. Ace Plus was recommended to Takahashi by Dog Ear Records. Kyoto handled environmental tracks, while Ace Plus was in charge of battle tracks in addition to other musical pieces. The team's main goal was to create music that went beyond the typical sound of RPGs. In hindsight, Yamanaka attributed the harmony of the 6 composers' works to Takahashi's organization and overall direction. The final score contained around 90 tracks. One of the hardest tracks for Shimomura was a 9-minute track that Takahashi requested to match with a movie scene. Later, he said that the track needed a change midway through, essentially necessitating the creation of 2 conjoined themes. The majority of the game's music was written by Kyoto and Ace Plus, with Shimomura writing 11 tracks. And they recorded someplace. Yeah, they did an end theme, and they put out a soundtrack. There you go.
It's real good.
And then, of course, like they've done like they redid like kind of like they rearranged some of the music for the definitive edition.
Which some of the rearrangements are really good.
Yeah, that stuff's really good. Like I was surprised. Like I was like, I'll try this out and see how this, because I know some of the music from this game, and I was like, this is pretty good.
It's real good. They did a very good job with the remixing of it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles.
He's so good.
It is a long game.
It is a long game. As I previously mentioned, I put like 140 hours in the first time I ever played. I probably put around that in the 3DS version. These are not including the New Game Pluses that I did, by the way. These are just first run-throughs. I've done New Game Pluses on Wii, and I've done 2 on the Wii and then 1 on the 3DS. Which doing New Game Plus, it goes a lot faster because you're like stupidly powered. But anyway, I put a lot of time into this game.
Yes. One tidbit I want to mention, because we talked about the weirdness of how this game initially was released.
Mm-hmm.
So it never charted in the US because NPD basically excluded it because it was a retail exclusive.
Mm-hmm.
However, someone from an investment banking firm said that it was probably one of the best-selling games in the US during April 2012.
Nice.
When it came out, basically selling as well alongside of games like Mass Effect 3.
Nice.
And then also, apparently in a later interview, it was made mention that the game sold much better in the West than it did in Japan. Which makes all of the weirdness around the release all the more baffling.
Yep.
Like, it's like, why? It's like, obviously in hindsight, it's just like, why would they do that? But like now, it's just like, I mean, back then they probably didn't know. They're like, I don't know, this JRPG, this is gonna really sell on the Wii. The console, obviously, that sold gangbusters in the US, but because of like, you know, families and everything. But then they sell it at GameStop of all places, and it still is like selling as much as a huge game like Mass Effect 3, which is being sold everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's outlandish.
Well deserved.
It's very ridiculous. So yeah. Oh man, I didn't realize all the stuff that's in there's on the stage in Smash. Oh, Ricky, he's an assist trophy. I want to play Smash just to play as Ricky.
Oh my god.
Also, it's weird to think that like they put Xenoblade stuff in Project Cross Zone 2, which is a absolute bonkers game, but the character they put in it was Fiora.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Well, they put Metal Face as well, but like that's not who I would have expected.
Nope.
I mean, maybe I expect her as like, oh, it's Chulk and her, but not just her.
Yeah.
Huh. Anyways, let's talk about this game. One person beat this game. One
Yep.
person didn't beat this game.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So, previously we have talked about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, the sequel to this game.
Yeah.
We'll get into that, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a game I didn't come away from really being all that high on.
I loved it.
You did. I was more just like, we played Torna after that because that came out later. Torna's great.
I love that too.
Fantastic. Sometime around, I remember when, but you were like, hey, you should play Xenoblade Chronicles. And I played some of it and then kind of bounced off of it.
Yep.
And I thought maybe this new definitive version is going to be the key to me playing this game finally. I can devote time to it because what else is coming out now?
Right.
I can, play it and everything, see what all the fuss is about, and
why Al loves this game so much.
yeah, why Al is
preaching about it.
so high on this video game.
Uh-huh.
Well, about that. So I got about halfway through, which halfway in this game is like 40 hours.
Yep.
Just a lot. And I think it kind of just ran into the same problems that I had with 2, where like I'm just not a big fan of this combat system, and like in long stretches specifically. Like I just get kind of bored of it because it's just a lot of just doing the same thing repeatedly. The game's just long. Too long.
It is a long
It is
game.
long for the sake of being long. And I think that brings up a lot of just like pacing issues that this game has, where like you will have like big story beats and then it'll be like, okay, well, you're going to go like 7 hours without seeing any story because you're going to be doing side quests and all this stuff, which I think would work better if I liked the side quests as they are. But a lot of them I think are just like weird, just like fetch quests or just like, hey, go kill this monster. Like a lot of them are just very just like, we're just going to repeat this because you're in a new area type of thing because we need you to go out and explore everything.
Right.
And just like that gets old real quick. And like some of the other, like there's obviously like kind of like there's some like character stuff in there, but like I didn't find any of the other like side quests that featured like characters or anything real interesting.
I am the exact opposite. Like the ones with the named characters I think are really, really interesting, and to see how they progress throughout the game and like what kinds of relationships form and like what's coming about because of these quests, I think it's really, really cool. And it reminds me in a way of the way that like the Trails games do, that like NPCs actually matter. And you can interact with them and learn like what's going on in their lives. It's pretty, like, I think that's really neat that there was that time put into making these characters actually feel like they're like living a life and that they have something important that's going on.
But what if the content surrounding them was good as well?
It is.
I would disagree with that.
I think that you disagree, but I think that it's really good. Like, I think the characters are good. I think that a lot of the questing is really, really fun. I enjoy it quite a bit. And I mean, as you said, it's really inspired by an MMO, and like a lot of those types of quests are MMO-ish.
Yes, but like I feel like if you're like, for example, I've played a lot of a game called Final Fantasy XIV, a game that is full of side quests.
Right.
Let me tell you. But I feel like there's like the level of writing and just like things that you do in those side quests in 14 are just so much better than what you get here. Like I'm way more invested in like what those are and everything, whereas here I was just like, I'm just doing this just to get the experience. That's it.
That's a bummer because there's some really cool side quests and some plot lines through them that I enjoy quite a bit. I mean, it's not like they didn't put any effort into it at all.
I mean, I'm sure they did, but like it just, none of it hit for me.
And that's fine. I mean, like, it's not for everybody, but it's not that they didn't do it. Like,
that's not what I'm not saying that. Just the writing of it and then like what you had to do, just none of it worked for me. I think that kind of just like bled into just like, God, this game's long. It is too long. I think it doesn't work as like you have to do like all these side quests just to do story, which you don't have to
You
per
don't
se.
have to.
It helps you with like if you want to be like leveled to a certain degree, but like
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot.
The
It's
side
so
quests are
much.
not required.
They're
And
not. They're not. They're not. But like the way I would play this game is I do not want to have to deal with like grinding.
mm-hmm.
And this is a way to supplement the grinding. It would
Right.
be either do those all those side quests or grind, and I would definitely want to do those side quests instead. But like, even then, just like, I feel like you could have just like lessened the amount of side quests that you have to do, or that are at least offered to you, and that would probably alleviate a lot of this. But it makes the pacing of the game just slow to a crawl, and like that was just a huge bummer. And it basically just like it really just burnt me out on playing this game.
Yeah, I don't agree though. Because like one of the great things about this game is the exploration element of it, and that includes like exploring the places where you are, like in terms of going to new cities and meeting the people. Like
What
that
if
is a form
you
of
could
exploration.
explore and you could move faster?
You can quick step.
Barely move faster. That doesn't do a whole lot. It minutely raises your movement speed. Like you move so slow, and these areas are so huge. Like it takes so long just to get from point A to point B. Like at some point, if you're basically aping all like MMO stuff to create this game, because essentially that's what they were doing, making a single player MMO.
Mm-hmm.
Why can you not have a mount to make movement speed a little bit better?
What would the mount be?
I don't know. What are those like weird the thingies that were in the epilogue that the one town had that they're like that they turned bad because they got this stuff happen to them.
The thingies in the epilogue.
They were like four-legged little monsters, but then they were tamed by the village and they were helping out.
The Armus?
Yeah, those. You could just have like one of those. You could ride on it. Hop on, everyone. Let's go ride it. Get you a bird or something. I don't know. Like I feel like that would it would definitely just be alleviate a problem that can easily come up. It's just like, God, you're just moving so slow, and I don't want to move so slow. It's frustrating how slow you move in that game.
There are actually times that I had to take off my quick steps because I had to move like very slowly to get through like certain terrain. Um, and like that's pretty cool to me that like it's something they incorporated that if you're going too fast, like you're gonna run off of a mountain and you probably shouldn't do that. um, but yeah, I really enjoy just like walking around and exploring. So
You see that mountain? You can go there.
I mean,
It'll
yeah.
take you a half hour to get there.
I mean, it would take you a while to get to anything in Breath of the Wild too.
No, well, you have mounts in Breath of the Wild. You can alleviate that problem.
Yeah, you can get a horse, but
Exactly. Problem solved. You can get a horse.
right, but like
Trails of Cold Steel. You could ride a horse, and those areas aren't that big.
How would you use a horse on like Air at Sea?
You get a boat,
You would have to have like
or just you get a flying mount.
area specific mounts in every single place.
Yeah, just have like a person out there who's like, hey, do you wanna rent a mount? Or like you do a quest and it gives you like a pass to get a mount at any time you want. Problem solved. Or eventually you just get area specific, like specific mounts for like, oh, here's one for places that have a lot of ground terrain. Here's one if you're up in like Air Sea and you have to like maneuver around kind of like those kind of places. Like I don't think that's that hard of a thing to implement. And I don't think it would like break the game in any sort of way. It would just make maneuverability a much less of a burden than what it currently is.
Yeah, I don't have that issue though. Like
You've also played this game for 300 hours. I think you would be used to it by now.
right, like but even the first time I played it, I was like, this is amazing. Like it's I could just walk around and do whatever I want. And I liked being able to like explore and find like the secret areas and like usually what I would do is walk around a place before I'd even like go and do any kind of main story flag because I just wanted to see what was all there. Also, what should I avoid? Because there's like level 80 plus enemies around.
See, I think those are just annoying than anything. Like, I don't understand the point of having those in there.
I mean, it makes sense because it's, for one, a challenge, but two, like there are areas you're not supposed to be in until later.
Yes, that is true. But then you don't have to like have here's this level 90 monster walking around the main area you need to run around just to be an There's no fun in that. It's just annoying. And it's just like, oh, I got to plot my path around, do a weird run around and do this figure eight because I got to avoid this dumb thing that's here for no reason at all.
But it led to my hilarious nemesis situation.
That's the only good thing that comes out of those.
It led to that. It led
that's
to
the
that
only
moment.
good time.
But it's also really satisfying to me that I can like go back and like destroy them later, and that's super fun for me.
But how many people are actually going to grind up and do that, do you think?
I mean, a lot of them you could do like just by going through the story. Like, you're not going to do the level 99 guys without grinding through.
That's what I'm saying. Like, what's the point of having them there? If like you're only just doing that for like a small percentage of the player base.
I mean, you could say the same thing for super bosses in any RPG.
What if you just included super bosses in this instead?
There are super bosses in this.
And just hide them somewhere, not just in the main plot point, or not the plot point, but the main area you're going through.
There are, I think, 4 or 5 super bosses that are over level 100.
That's too much.
They're fun. They're fun to challenge. But you gotta know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're gonna get wrecked.
Obviously.
But yeah, it gives you something to like think of as a challenge of like, hey, I want to go back to that area, and that guy is level 75. Maybe if I come back when I'm 75, I can see what all's in there, and like that's exciting for me.
Not for me. Okay, so like I think moral of the story, I got halfway through and I was like, hey, how much longer do I have in this game? You're like, yeah, you gotta go to this place, this place, this place, this place, this place, this place, this place. And I was like, that's another 40 to 50 hours, isn't it? And you're like, yeah. I was like, nope, I'm good. I'm done. This game's long for the sake of being long. It is a problem that just RPGs have in general. Like, this is the same problem Persona 5 had. This is the same problem Danganronpa V3 had. Like, you don't have to make a game just extraordinarily long just to pad things out for the player to play it for a long period of time. And I think with the amount of story that's in there, like, there's 10 hours of cutscenes, essentially, that are, like, main plot point, per se. That's what 10% of the whole entire game you're getting just story cutscenes. Like, that seems like a huge mismatch of what's going on there. Like, that makes it seem like the story is very short, but like it's a 100-hour game. It shouldn't be like that minimal.
But you're also getting stuff that's not all in cutscenes.
Yeah, bad quests.
No, not all bad quests. Like there's a lot of story that you're gonna build up through like talking to characters and like not having just straight up cutscenes. There's a lot of world building that happens in Xenoblade, and that's part of what makes it so great is like how alive this world feels, which is fantastic. But I don't see this having the same issue of padding as like Persona 5. Like
I cannot understand how you can't see that.
Because like everywhere is extremely relevant to what's going on, and it didn't feel like it just dragged on for me. Like it was like, okay, this is where I need to go. This is part of this story. Like everything felt like it had some kind of necessary piece.
Look, you could say that obviously the areas you're going to are very like prominent towards the plot point. Mm-hmm. It felt like a drag going to every single area because I knew I was going to literally sit there for 7 hours doing side quests and nothing else.
Okay, but that's you.
Which makes it seem like it is a very poorly paced game.
I disagree.
I do not agree with your disagreement.
I mean, you have to know what's going on, or else like
I know what's
what are you
going on, but
doing?
like I'm not having. I feel like I'm just like sitting here doing nothing while I could be doing the story, but then I'm going to be hit with be like by being under leveled at some point because I'm trying to mainline this or rush the story then. And then I'm going to do 14 hours of side quests, and I'm going to really hate myself.
I mean, we personally know several people who have like streamlined this and beat it much quicker than I did.
But like, okay, so the problem with that for me is that was how I played this game originally,
Mm-hmm.
and it made me bounce off super quick because I was just constantly underleveled and getting frustrated with the game.
Mm-hmm.
So I would not be able to play this game streamlined. Like that's just not an option for me. Game's too long.
It's not too long.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2, also game too long.
Not too long.
No, you cannot say that.
I can say that.
No. Inaccurate.
Not inaccurate.
Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is a game that's far too long for its sake.
But that's
Also, it's a worse game than this, easily.
I agree that it's a worse game than this. I easily agree with that part. But I personally don't think that either of these games are too long.
You are indoctrinated?
No, I'm not indoctrinated. I just really enjoy this game and what it has to offer.
Who are you? Where's Al? Loki, stop taking Al.
Dude.
Making her say bad opinion.
This is who I've always been, and you know that.
I know.
You know this is me. You know how much I love this game. You know how much I love all the questing in it. Like it's a very relaxing and fun game for me to play.
I wish I had a relaxing, fun time playing this game.
I wish you did too, because it's really, really fun, and
I definitely did not.
Really enjoyed it. I'm very, very sad that you don't like it. Like I'm really sad by that.
Okay, so
it
obviously
means a lot to me.
Obviously, we were going to talk about this a little bit later. How far are we in this podcast? Probably too far. Oh God, 45 minutes. We're going to very streamline the plot.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about the plot a whole lot.
I think Monolith Soft is bad at making long games, but when they make 10 to 15 hour like experiences, they are phenomenal at it. Like their writing and like the way they are pacing the game and everything when they are doing these short form experiences with Torna and with what they do with Xenoblade Chronicles Future Connected. Mm-hmm. Like they're both really good.
I think they're all good.
But like I think Xenoblade Chronicles is very poorly paced and I just could not get into it. Chronicles X was just like, man, I can't wait to get a mech. 30 hours later I get a mech. Well, I just probably stop playing this game now. And then 2 is just super long again and just like bad characters and poor writing and all that sort of stuff. But then it's like Torna and the Xenoblade Chronicles epilogue are great. Like I don't understand the difference.
I like I said, I think Chronicles and 2 and Torna and Future Connected are all good. They're different experiences, but they're all very good. And I mean, like, it's shorter, but Future Connected, you're doing the exact same stuff.
But it's shorter. It's a more compacted story, and it feels way more just like it feels like it is definitely paced for like, hey, this is a 10-hour experience. You know, going into it, that's what you're getting, and they're able to work within those parameters in a way that provides you with an experience that feels like you're getting you're getting chunky story bits constantly, and something is always constantly happening.
But it wouldn't have made any sense unless you had the Xenoblade before it.
Totally, yeah, I will not disagree with that, obviously.
So, like, you can't really say with Torna or Futures Connected that they're like standalone experiences because they rely heavily on what came before it to understand what's going on. So
clearly not.
They're not just truncating like a whole story in 10 hours. They are relying on what's already been told to tell that story.
But they are truncating a story into 10 hours. Like, this is a specific story we are telling with this experience. Obviously, you're going to come in with your own baggage and with your own experience with the other stories, but this is a story we are telling for this amount of time, and that's it.
Like, if you had paid like $50 for Futures Connected, you probably would have been real mad.
Well, they wouldn't have probably. I mean, they probably could.
Yeah.
But also, like, I think I got Torna on sale as well, so.
I paid full price for Torna, but
if Torna or if Future Connected was a $20 experience, and I knew what happened throughout Xenoblade Chronicles, I think that would be easily a worthwhile purchase. I would be completely happy with it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
As I said, I like all of these except for Cross isn't as good, but Chronicles, Futures Connected, to Torna, I like all of those experiences. They're just different experiences.
To me, I just like for me personally, obviously, I just like how they make short form experiences. I just, for whatever reason, I cannot get into their long form experiences.
Which is a real.
And obviously, that's just me. That is on me. I completely understand that, but like it feels like such a weird divide that like I can get into like their one experience, but like this other experience is like it's just not for me at all. I don't know. By the way, you want to talk about the plot?
Yeah,
so we don't sit here and argue for 30 more minutes.
I will argue to the death of me that Xenoblade Chronicles is amazing. I will.
That is fine. You can argue that. I will say I disagree, and I did not enjoy it as much as you did. I just wanted to give my reasons.
Yep.
Shulk, he's the guy. He's really feeling it. Ryan, he's the guy. He's got some Ryan time.
Oh my god.
Dunban, he's a vampire.
Dunban.
That's it. That's the game. Ricky is the hero, the true protagonist,
Hero
the greatest
Vaughn.
Character in this video game, and roll credits.
Okay, so the gist of the game is that people live. Huh?
Do you want me to read the plot summary on Wikipedia?
No,
as a
I'm
way
gonna
to streamline it?
I'm going to give you a plot summary. I got this.
Okay.
So you have these two giants, the Mechonis and the Bionis, that serve as essentially the worlds that people live on. And the Bionis is where the Homs live. And we are introduced to them in Colony 9 with Shulk, who is our protagonist. He is a scientist who works on weaponry. And his best friend is Ryan. And as you said, it is Ryan time. He is also involved with the military, but not as smart. And Fiora is their friend who has feelings for Shulk very clearly, and Shulk is kind of oblivious to it. And Dunban is her older brother by many, many years, and he was also the hero of Sword Valley, which was a battle that took place a year prior where the Mechon who live on Mechonis attacked the Bionis, and he wielded the Monado, which did a lot of damage to his arm. So Shulk has been essentially researching the Monado to figure out like how it works and why it did what it did. And things happen, and eventually Colony 9 is attacked by the Mechon.
And Fiora dies.
Yeah, spoiler alert, Fiora dies. Fiora is killed by Metalface, which Shulk gets the Monado, is able to see the future and tries to prevent things from happening, but fails, and also learns that the Monado doesn't seem to work on Metalface for some reason. So after Fiora dies, they go on a revenge quest, essentially. You pick up some people on the way. Charla is one. Colony 6 was attacked by the Mechon, and so she is also really out for some revenge and wants to find out what happened to her fiance, Ghetto. And also you get to rebuild Colony 6, which is really fun.
I like that part.
It was really fun.
And then it got to a part where it was like, hey, you got to grind for these items. I was like, oh.
What items did you have to grind for?
I don't remember. I don't remember if it was like a person in the colony who was like, hey, give me these items. And it was just one of those where you had to like fight enemies and then hope and pray it drops for you. And I was like, I don't want to do this. It was also like, give me like 9 of these items. I was like, oh.
Hey, you want to know a secret to that? That involves your favorite
Oh,
character.
what?
Riki has an ability called Yoink,
Yoink.
and Yoink ups the
What
rate
the?
of
What?
those silver and gold chests dropping.
Glad the game told me this.
It did in the skill tree.
Who has time to read the skill tree of characters you aren't using?
You're supposed to connect them so that you can use all the abilities to the best of your advantage.
Who has time to read the abilities?
Me. But anyway, Yoink helps a lot.
I bet.
So as we're working our way up the Bionis, Shulk gets visions that he has to go to essentially like the head of the Bionis. Along the way, you meet Melia, who is obviously some kind of important gal, and you meet Riki, who is the hero pawn for the year.
Greatest character in this video game.
He is in severe debt and has to work his way out of it. And eventually, you're able to work your way up to Eretz to Alchemoth, find out that Melia is the crown princess of Alchemoth. Also, she is Hyentia, which means that she is birdish.
Oi.
And Shulk keeps seeing visions in Prison Island, which is the Bionis head, of the Emperor dying and him fighting with the Mechon, the metal face, and a silver face. All that happens. Emperor dies. You also find out that, hey, Fiora's alive. She is piloting the silver Mechon, but she doesn't remember you at all. Also, I forgot to mention that we picked up Dunban along the way. He dresses like a vampire.
Yeah, he's a vampire man. Unless you make him naked.
I made him naked the whole time. Okay. Again, with the skill tree, there's an ability that like completely makes him broken with his agility if he's naked. And you can put him in like swim trunks and everything, and that counts as naked. So like you straight up put the dude in like swim trunks and no shirt and like flippy floppies, and he just like can't be hit. It's fantastic. Naked Dunban's the only way to go, guys, for the record. And that's the thing, is that I played this so much that I know how to break things like this.
Of course.
So yeah, they have decided they're going to take this to Mechonis. They take Sword Valley again, get to Galahad Fortress.
Sword Valley, a valley that is not made of swords. But it's on a sword, but it's
on
not
a
like
sword.
There's not just like a bunch of swords just hanging out there. Very disappointing.
It is on a sword. Everything's named after like body parts and like parts of the bodies of
Who is living on the Bionis?
It's a solid question. I don't know the answer to that.
You play this game for 300 hours and you don't know that? What are you doing?
You don't get to go to the crotch. It's not a place you visit. Anyway, we get to Galahad Fortress. We meet with the Silverface. We also meet with Egil, who is at war. He wants to destroy the Bionis.
Also, I think we should probably mention this, but when you're up in Prison Island, you meet a giant by the name of Zanza.
And
he's pretty important.
He's pretty important, and he is able to tell Shulk how to release the Monado in order to fight Metalface.
Yes.
Yeah. He also gets like shanked.
Yes.
At that point. So, Galahad Fortress, you meet Egil. You see Silverface, who decides that Egil cannot kill you. Things are going weird with that. Shulk is like, what is going on with you, Fiora? This is weird. She like malfunctions and ends up like falling off Galahad Fortress, and Shulk, being the crazy man that he is, jumps after her, and they end up on the fallen arm.
Pulls a solid snake.
So Fiora eventually remembers him and explains that she has someone else's soul within her, so she has basically two people within her body.
Which is like, as soon as they got to that, I was like, that's literally what they decided to make. They took this entire idea and made Xenoblade Chronicles 2 out of it.
I mean, yeah, it makes sense.
I was like, oh, I see what you did here.
So, in the Fallen Arm, they meet with the leader, who I forget his name. He's large, and he asks you to
large and in charge.
He asks you to kill Egil. So
what is his name?
It starts with an M. You go up to the capital. You meet up with Egil. But before that, you meet up with Ghetto, who has been brainwashed. He does not remember anything. But guess what? He eventually does. Yay! And in the whole situation with Egil, eventually you find out, like, oh, hey, Mainith is within Fiora. Mainith is the soul of Mechonis.
Mm-hmm.
And she explains that Zanza is the soul of Bionis.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, wait, what?
My favorite thing about Egil is, like, the group confronts him like a couple of times.
Yeah.
Before they have like their final encounter with him. And every time they're like, why are you doing this? And he's like, I'm not telling you. Buzz off.
Yeah, he's
Get
not
out of here.
Not interested in giving you his villain monologue. He does not
eventually
care.
He does, but like
he does, but
I really appreciate the fact that they're like, here's this villain who's just like, I'm not gonna tell you what I'm trying to do. Like, I don't care if you want to know. Get out of here, you weirdos.
Goodbye. Yeah, so all this essentially leads up to you have to go in and try and defeat like Egil and the core of Mechonis. And in doing this, at one point Shulk is like going to straight up shank Egil, and then he has a moment of like, I can't do this. Like, we have the same goals, because the Bionis essentially like betrayed Mechonis and attacked them first. So he understands that feeling of like wanting revenge for people that you love. But then, as he's standing there with his Monado up, ready to not kill Egil, he gets shot.
Shot through the heart, and he's to blame.
And there is a character who has been around since the very beginning. He was at the Battle of Sword Valley with Dunban, and he was the one who found Shulk as a small child, and also found the Monado when Shulk was a small child. He has helped you in your fight all along. His name is Dixon, and Dixon shot the out of Shulk.
He sure gave Shulk a hot cup of
He sure did.
This is the part where I was like, oh, this is just Metal Gear Solid 2, basically. Because it's like, here's the villain you've been trying to fight towards this whole time, but surprise, he's not the actual main villain. It's this guy!
And so, yeah, Dixon reveals that he is Zenza's disciple. Also with the Mechonis core events, like, all of the full-blooded Telethia full-blooded Hyantia turn into Telethia.
Also, they just yanked the soul of Zanza out of Shulk.
Oh yeah, that too. So Shulk becomes like a shell.
And then Zanza and Maineth fight each other, and Zanza defeats Maineth, grabs her Monado, and now he has 2 Monados.
He has 2 Monados. How come
like,
you get
powerful.
2 Monados?
I got 2 Monados now. I'm all powerful. You all suck.
This is the power of a god.
That's basically what he does.
Yeah, with his long hair. And so there's a lot of just chaos happening at this point, and Shulk is like floating around in space trying to figure out like what's going on. And there's this guy who's been hanging around named Alvis.
He's the Kingdom Hearts man.
He is. And Alvis shows up.
By that I mean he's not in Kingdom Hearts, but he just looks like he came straight out of Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, his design's pretty Kingdom Hearts-ish. he shows up and is like, "What are you doing? Like, you can go back, right? Like, you are separate from Zanza."
Mhm.
And eventually, Shulk realizes, like, "Yep, all right, I can do that." Um, so he is able to go back to his body. That Ryan luckily is able to carry back.
Yeah,
What a good
he's
boy.
just like comatose essentially
Mhm.
from this point until he eventually decides to wake up again. Alvis is a weird character. Like, I don't think I still understand fully like what he was doing this whole time. Like, because like obviously we learned that he's aligned with Zanza.
Yeah.
He's lived Dixon and all them.
Yeah.
But like at the same time he's undermining Zanza.
Yes.
It's that dude's just everywhere. He is the Revolver Ocelot of this video game.
Um, Zanza. Alvis is kind of like chaos in a sense, but
Yeah.
the best way to think about this is that he was allied with Zanza because of his true nature. But then like when he realizes that it's out of control, he's like, yeah, no, this isn't cool. I gotta fix this. Um, which his true nature is hilarious, but um, he ends up relating more to Shulk in a way than he does Zanza at this point. And he realizes that Zanza did some real messed up stuff. So we're gonna take him down. We're gonna kill a god. So Shulk has his like faux Monados made. And man, everything's bad. Like I said, the Telethia, like all the Hyentia that were full blooded are now Telethia, and that's bad news.
Melia's brother gets turned into one, and it's real nasty.
It's real bad. They eventually have to kill him, and he explains like she was the hope of the Hyentia because she was half blooded.
They have to beat up her fake mom, who just has her hammer-hammers out.
That's the advisor.
But isn't she like
Umea was her not mother. And Umea was scapegoated and thrown in prison.
right? But like Hammer Lady was
Lorthia.
Yes, but she was like the Hyentia lady that the Emperor had.
No.
And then Umea was the Homs lady?
No. Umea was the Hyentia first consort. The second consort was Melia's mom, and she died.
Okay, I got real confused on that part, apparently.
Yeah.
I don't know. That may have just been because of the way I was viewing the story. It didn't get explained all that well in those cutscenes, but yeah, I got real confused on that. Even though I think back then I was real confused on it when I was playing the game.
Yeah, so you is Callion's mom. And so
I need a family chart of this.
So her and Melia are not related at all.
Right.
And then Lorthia is the advisor to the Emperor.
Right.
Also in charge of like tech.
Also just in charge of like this Black Ops rogue band of messed up folks.
Yeah, that too. Which is where Tyrea hangs out.
Got her hammers out, gets beat up.
Yeah. So
in the insides of the Bionis.
In the heart.
They vor the Bionis.
Oh my god. So you wrap it up in Prison Island. You get to fight Dixon in his true form. And I actually really appreciated the scene. Because like when Dixon gets hit by the Monado after like some pep talking between the crew, he just like transforms.
Fake Monado, right?
Yes. But he's like, yeah, you can't do anything without your Monado, and then he's able to actually hit him, and he transforms back to his regular self, and is like, you know what, I'm done.
I also really like that, just because like he's like, no, I'm good. You go whatever, I don't care. And like
he's like, I'm not a martyr for this.
And like he just like, I'm not gonna give you the satisfaction of feeling like you beat me.
but then he dies.
He does, but like I just like the idea that like he basically lures them into this false sense of security, like, oh, we'll be fine. He's just injured and everything.
Yep.
But his true intentions are like, I don't want you to feel like you have victory over me.
Yep.
Like, screw you.
He says like, so the student surpassed the master, since Shulk was essentially like his kid, for lack of a better word. Like he raised him. But he does not want them to see him die. So he just like goes and chills in the corner with a cigarette. And
I thought when that cigar fell, it was going to like land right on his and it was going to set his on fire.
Why would it
like,
oh, no! That?
I don't know. It was like the way it was falling. I was like, oh, that's going to hurt. But it just fell on the ground.
But Fiora's like, yeah, his wounds, and they're like, yeah, we just got to keep going, man. But I really like that scene. I think it's a good way to wrap up Dixon's story.
I completely agree. I really enjoyed that part as well.
I like it a lot. And so then you go through and time to go to space.
Okay. So obviously Shulk has been in space because he had his weird existential moment of trying to figure out his real self. And I think this was where I was like, man, did they just turn this into, did this copy Final Fantasy VII at some points here? But like, how do they get to space?
I mean, that's where the transporter takes them so that they can fight Zanza.
Okay. I didn't realize they took a transporter. It was more just like, hey, we beat Dixon and now we're in space for me.
No, because that's where Zanza is. And
so I was like, how did we just randomly end up in space?
So
what is going on?
You're walking by like all of our solar system, so you get to go by Jupiter and Mars, and eventually you meet up with Zanza, and Shulk decides that this is no world for gods, and they beat the crap out of him. But also Alvis explains like, this is the story of what happened. And there was a space station.
They show that space station and I was immediately like, I know this. I know this.
And you are introduced to Klaus. Who is a scientist.
And Mayneth.
Mayneth has a different name when she's I forget what her, I'm trying to look it up real quick.
But she becomes
Mayneth, yes.
Right.
Let's see. Her name is Galea.
Right. Because the whole thing, obviously, I know going into this is that like there was some connection in 2 to this game, and I kept the entire time I was like, I was trying to remember like who's the character that makes that connection to in 2, and then when they show that space station, and then like when they say Klaus, I was like, oh, this is it.
Yeah, they showed that scene in 2.
Okay, so I don't know if you remember or not. Do they basically like kind of beautify up that scene in 2 to kind of match the kind of graphical styling of 2, or did they just show the scene from the original game in 2?
It is not like, they didn't remake it in Xenoblade 2's art style. So it's a lot rougher looking.
Right.
So obviously they had not made this yet.
Yeah. I wonder if you would put in the work to patch this scene into 2 then. To kind of like,
solid question.
To make it kind of like go fit in part and parcel with the way 2's art style is.
Yeah.
But regardless.
It would be smart too, but yeah, Klaus is mad with power at the moment in the space station, and ends up using the supercomputer Alvis to try an experiment, which essentially ends up creating the new world of the Bionis and the Mechonis, with Klaus, Zanza in the Bionis, and the Mayneth is Mechonis. And then Zanza essentially gets to the point where he is upset that people don't remember him. And so that's why he decides that he's going to fight and become super god. So Shulk says no, and Shulk gets his own true Monado. So Zanza's like, I have this Monado, and I have
this Monado.
Mayneth's Monado. Why am I losing? And so after he does lose,
it's the weapon triangle.
Well, um, Alvis eventually is like, all right, these, after you beat Zanza, he's like, these worlds, like, they're collapsing right now. You got to do something, man. And takes him into like this, like dream-like state where he's standing on the water talking to him, trying to explain what's going on. And
He's like, man, simple and clean is the way that you're making me feel tonight.
oh my god, he has his friends come in and like talk to him about what's going on. And Shulk is basically like, I want to live in a world with no gods, and throws his Monado to the other two Monados and makes that wish, essentially. Which then leads to a broken down version of the worlds that is stabilized with no gods, and everybody is living in harmony in the colony, the new colony they built.
Mm-hmm.
And Fiora gets her old body back,
mm-hmm.
Including the original boob size that she had. Because man, they went bigger on the Robo body. It's like her they're not that big, but they were then. So how's that for a rundown?
I think that works.
I cried so much in this
10
game.
hours of cutscenes, so that is a very streamlined version of what has happened.
Yeah, I missed a lot, but still.
So, like, obviously, I basically picked up, like, halfway. I watched 5 hours of cutscenes, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
I think the story is fine. Like, I enjoyed what they do with the story and everything. Like, what they do in, like, the back half of it and all that sort of stuff. Like, I found it to be enjoyable. I thought it did some interesting things. It went some places I wasn't expecting it to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was perfectly fine. Like, I wish it was in a game that I enjoyed playing more, and it wasn't 100 hours that you have to go through to see all of that. But like, yeah, I think like the story is really okay, really all right.
I love that story. I think it's really great. Also, like, out of the message of no gods.
I think Future Connected does. So let's talk about Future Connected a little bit.
Okay. I will say real quick that like the connection at the end where Shulk is saying like he doesn't want a world with gods, right before they defeat Zanza, like or before they fight him, that is word for word in Xenoblade 2 when you're talking with Klaus. So it's
because he just somehow is able to get warped into this other world.
Yeah, dimensional stuff.
It's time dimension stuff. Yeah.
But that's why I freaked out when I was playing 2. I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. Anyway, so Future Connected.
I think Future Connected does a smart thing by basically making the focus on Melia. Because by the end of Xenoblade Chronicles, like, she essentially is going to become the leader of the Hyantia. I mean, she already kind of is, but...
Yeah, but like, nobody knows it.
Right, but also, like, I don't think her as a character would have been ready for that by that point.
No, I agree. And, you know, she's just gone through a lot of trauma, like a lot of trauma. And the thing with Xenoblade Chronicles is that the Hyantia and Melia herself don't really get as much closure as everybody else.
Yeah.
So this was very satisfying for me to actually get some form of closure for her and for the Hyantia.
Yeah, because I think it does a really good job of like putting her out into like a humanitarian mission essentially, where like she gets to see like what's happening with the people and all this sort of stuff, and like it gives her a good time to like reflect on everything, figure out exactly how she would want to be a leader in all of this, and basically is a way for her to actually prepare herself to be like, I want to do this now.
Yeah, it gives her confidence in her leadership.
Yeah. We get some good backstory with Ricky's kids.
Yo, so that's something I did not expect from this, is that like 2 of the playable characters are Ricky's kids. So you get his adopted son and his throughout the game you get like little tidbits of like Ricky's character. And I was like, holy crap, like this is
so excited,
really fun to like learn more about who he is, because like he's kind of played off as like the jokey character.
Yeah, he's the comedic relief essentially.
Yeah, and so like to find out like all these really great things that he's done for other people was like, wow, that's really cool actually. Like
I was real excited when like they first showed up, because like Ricky was like my favorite character coming out of this game.
Ricky's great.
He's really good, and I was like, oh heck yeah, let's spend time with his kids. That's great.
Um, and so that was real fun. That like straight off the bat, well, Shulk ends up crashing Junks, which for some reason they call it the Junks in the sure why. Like in the original, it's just referred to as Junks.
This is the upgraded version. They just added a "the" in front of it.
The Junks, but he crashes the Junks because of a laser, and then they're like, "Oh hey, we're on the Bionic shoulder. Time to like explore this place."
They essentially think it's like a defense system that went weird.
Yeah.
But then they learn it's like, no, there's a weird fog monster just hanging out
the
on
Fog King Alchemoth.
Alchemoth, yeah. It just turns into Persona 4 for a hot second.
The Fog King.
Yeah. Essentially, you go around the Bionic shoulder. You see these two different villages that have kind of propped up. One is like full of Hyantia that were basically
like a defense force.
They were a defense force that kind of like were uprooted from their home and everything, and had to basically live here now because they've been trying to fight the Fog King and nothing can fight it or nothing they are doing. Yeah, they have some racist tendencies, especially the one guy.
Yeah. Like the whole reason that they leave the other town to live there is because they're really not happy that the Machina are over in the other town.
Yeah. Eventually you go to Alchemoth. And like you see like what's actually happening there.
Yo, I just want to say before we talk about that, like seeing Alchemoth in this state was super cool and very sad. Like being able to explore it and see like the grass all grown up and the two escalators broken down. Like, oh my god, it was so cool.
Also, I think Kino is like, no one has been keeping track of, or keeping care of the lawn here.
Nene says that. Nene says it. Nene's
like,
one
of them says it.
Somebody hasn't been keeping the groundskeeper hasn't been working.
Yeah.
It was great. And Millie's like, nope, no, they haven't. So yeah, they go and check out this Fog King and see this rift.
Also, they find a kid there.
Oh yeah, Teelan.
You find him there, who's like been basically trying to research a way to bring transform the Telethia back into Hyantia.
Yes, so that's a quest that you get after Mechonis Core because his mom turns into a Telethia. And so if you go and hang out at the ether plant at Aerith Sea, first you have to like rescue him, but eventually he will say like, hey, I was working with my mentor who is now also a Telethia. He told me that there are some research records in the tomb. Could you get those for me? Because I really need to research how to get my mom back. So you go and get the records, give them back to him, and then he starts his research. So that's a side quest in the original game.
See, I didn't know that. I thought he was just a character they put in this.
Nope, he's in the original game, and he's real traumatized, but also is like, I gotta fix it. I gotta do this. I had mentorship. I can do it.
Gotcha. He basically, he's like, oh yeah, I got a little lab, and you'll find it eventually. He's like, oh yeah, I've been hanging out with my sis and everything. And they're like, who's your sister? He's like, oh, we're not really related, but she's been helping me with my research. And then you eventually go and see him, and you find Tyrea's there.
Tyrea!
She's the one who's been helping him. Like, I was really impressed with like how well they do Tyrea's like babyface turn here, where they basically make her from being the assassin that she was in 1, and they kind of start this in 1 as well. That one side quest where she has to find her mom, who's a Telethia now. But like they go full born here of just like, we're gonna make you into on the good side here now. We're gonna
cool.
Yeah, like they fully explore like her and Melia's like relationship and how like they still feel awkward towards each other, but they realize they have to work together eventually to see the Hyantia kind of come back into prominence and everything, and they fully explore like all of those aspects of.
It's really cool
what happens between those two, and like it's done incredibly well.
And they also like kind of acknowledge like, hey, we're not blood related, but you're essentially the only family I have left.
Yeah, which I think helps that like they basically kind of introduce like Nene and Kino essentially as having the same kind of issue.
Yeah,
and there's like a quiet moment, which is their version of heart to hearts, because they do a little bit of like gameplay and.
God, they're so fun.
stuff that kind of overhaul stuff. Like you don't have a skill tree in this. They do the quiet moments are heart to hearts, but you don't have to use like affinities or anything. It's just hey, have this character in your or these characters in your party, or
At
and
this
be
time
far
of
enough
day,
in the story. Yeah, like totally great. But yeah, like there's one where like it's Melia, Tyrea, and then Nene shows up and it's just like, you guys gotta kiss and make up. You're sisters now.
or else mom will be real mad.
Tyrea just keeps getting mad at her.
Yep. It's really
It's real
good.
dumb and good.
Tyrea's character development, this is amazing.
Yeah.
It's really, really well done. It's a good use of this character.
Totally.
Because like it's not something I would have expected coming into this.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm real happy with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tyrea is helping with the research to try and turn the Telethia back.
Eventually, our homeboy's house gets blown up, and the research with it from the main half Hyantia dude, who's just a jerk. And we just
sucks.
The best part is like he's a scrub, so you just beat him up, and then a Telethia comes and like chases him off.
Yep.
And then you beat him up again later on as like a side quest, and then he's just like, I'm gonna fall off the shoulder. Bye.
It was Teelan's mom that protected him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, I'm gonna throw him off the shoulder, and you're like, well, I'm like, wait, do I actually throw him off the shoulder? Well. And then I beat him, and he fell himself. He threw himself off the shoulder. I was like, well, he did the hard work for me. It's fine.
I was kind of glad that like he obviously was kind of set up just to be like a semi-antagonist, but like he sucked.
Yeah, he was not good at his job.
Yeah, it was just like, oh, satisfyingly beat him up both times. It's not like just like, oh, now I'm gonna get away because I'm the villain. Like somehow, like sometimes Xenoblade does.
Yeah.
It's just like, no, you're gonna beat his and then you're gonna go beat his again.
Yeah, that was great. And then eventually he's like, I've had my beat too much. I'm done.
But yeah, you basically move those two to the like this new big village, the original village that you find, where like all the races are hanging out there. The fog monster gets bad. There's like a rift in the sky over Alchemoth that gets bigger and starts turning like the monsters down on the shoulder into fog monsters. So you basically have to protect this village in a variety of ways, and that includes like going and getting the former soldiers from the other village and having them come here. Mm-hmm. Which that was a really good part for like Melia as well, because like she basically kind of is like, hey, I'm done with your bull. You're gonna come help us. This is literally what you have been training to do your whole lives. You need to do this now.
Like, are you actually just gonna sit here and let them die because you're racist? Mm-hmm. And she also like is able to say like, you know, this is who I am at this point, because before that she's been hiding it.
They're like, oh god. So she does that, and like there's like it's back at the original village, like Tyrea is like leading the charge of like defending the gate to get there, and like she's just like she's basically on her like last bits of energy and is about to get messed up, and then like
and is yelling at Melia like, come on, get back here.
An energy blast like defeats the monster that's in front of her, and you see Shulk, Melia, Nene, Kino, and then the rest of the guard with them,
like slow walking toward her.
I was like, oh man, this is good.
Yep. And they fight. One thing I do want to say is that there are T-Rexes in this that I got to destroy.
Look, those T-Rexes are scrubs compared to the big T-Rex.
They are.
They're level 70. They're babies.
But it was still very satisfying. So yeah, Tyrea, at one point it's really funny because Melia's like, where's Tyrea after like they get there and defeat all the enemies, and she's like, oh yeah, she went and got cured, and then she's like, yeah, I gotta get away from this sappy nonsense.
It's real good. There's also a thing in the game, because like you don't have link attacks anymore when you're fighting. You find these Nopon like prospectors, and eventually when you get enough of them, you're able to gather them all up and do like a special attack. Those special attack animations are good.
They're good. They're real good. Which this also has lore, because there's an archaeology center in Frontier Village, the tree area where the Nopon live, and so they're from the archaeology center, and they're out here prospecting for mushrooms.
So what do you? So you finished that entire plot line
Hmm.
where you fought the big dragon as well.
I did.
Was there anything that you get from doing that? Because that was the one thing I didn't do,
You get that sweet crown with amazing stats.
and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, like you get a very satisfying end to their
Mhm.
like plot line of like the debt and everything. Um, which was fun because they find a bunch of treasure at the bottom of dry mushrooms. So
Good.
the archaeology center can continue on. But they give Melia the crown, and it's rad.
Uh, so basically, eventually, you have to go fight the Fog King.
Yep.
Which essentially is like, hey, level up enough to go fight the Fog King.
Yeah, well, and Shulk has to add like an ether, like a pure ether crystal to his
Yeah.
new Monado that he's created.
The new Monado version is real rad because it's like just starts spewing like just energy everywhere, and I was like, oh, that's
Yep.
pretty good. It's pretty good.
Also, Shulk's new outfit is so much better.
Yeah.
It's so wow.
Wow.
Although I had him fight the final boss in the beach wear.
I had him in like I had him with the goggles. I had him in the flippy floppies, but he had like the full black outfit.
Yeah, so I had him in the goggles and the swim fins, and then swim trunks, and then like the open shirt for swimming.
Mm-hmm.
It was really really funny to fight the boss in that. I ended up for funsies putting Melia in her beach stuff too for the final boss.
Because why not?
So they were definitely headed to the beach for the Fog King battle.
We're gonna relax after this.
So yeah, they decide that like the way to destroy this thing is with massive amounts of ether. So that's why Shulk does his Monado trick, which is funny because he like alters it with the ether thing, and they're like nothing changes. Like it did a little bit.
Hello, there's a hole in here now.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Big difference.
But yeah, you have to fight the Fog King. He has 2 phases. The first phase is pretty self-explanatory. You fight him, beat him, and then they're like, "Oh, nothing's happening. That's not good." And then a bunch of Telethia go to start just ramming into the rift in the sky. I was like, "That's weird." And they're like, "Oh, this is helping." I was like, "Okay." And then you fight him again. This is where I had to give you advice. Right, I offered advice to you because I had problems with it. But like, the Fog King basically has like this big huge topple attack that's like literally takes out your entire party for like 30 seconds at a time.
Yeah.
And if he has the Fog Knights out with them, they will just eat through your HP.
Oof.
So it gets rough, but yeah, having topple resistance is very key. So Shulk can be like, "Hey, get up! Hey, get up! All right, let's fight this thing."
I had topple resist on Shulk, so he was able to help everybody up.
Yeah, I think during that I only got toppled once, but it was in a phase where like none of the other ads were out as well, so like it was just the Fog King, so he couldn't do a ton of damage. So I was able to be okay for that, but yeah. And then he beat the Fog King.
Yep.
Yay!
Melia is like, "Hey guys, protect me, give me time," and does like this really cool ether blast that I still don't know exactly what she did.
Cool stuff.
Cool stuff.
That's it.
Yeah, it's dead now.
You get an after thing where you see Melia basically
Coronation.
her coronation, yeah, and Tyrea's there along with her, and then basically you also see them going back to Colony 9 and meeting back up with everyone.
Well, he leaves Melia there, and then he gets everybody from Colony 9 to come help rebuild Alchemoth. Which is awesome. And I also love the fact that Tyrea agrees to like basically be her bodyguard.
Which, like, I think that scene at the end would kind of be it was a little weird out of context because I didn't see the 2 quiet moments before it.
Oh no!
Well, it's because like the way it just shows it to you, it makes it seem like she's going to become a party member. So I got real confused. Also, it was like 5 a.m. when I was doing this, so I was very confused.
Yeah.
So I went back the next day and played it, and then like I got that context, and I was like, oh, okay, this makes a lot more sense, like why she's there and everything.
Yeah, seeing those 2 quiet moments are really, really important.
Yes, very, very.
You can see the buildup of them like starting to trust each other, starting to listen to each other, and then eventually the decision to become her her bodyguard.
Yeah. Um. And yeah, I think this does a really good job. It's like wrapping up the story as a whole, and like it does, I think, a better job of just being like the end all be all.
Mm-hmm.
Because you basically get that character wrap for Melia, where she, you finally get to see like, oh, she's going to go into this now, and like full well like she's going to be great at it, because like she now has the confidence in herself, has the experience and all that sort of stuff to do all this. And you got to see Ricky's kids, who are great.
They're great. One thing that I find interesting that I'm not sure of, well, there are two things. I'm still not sure where the rift came from.
Right. They kind of just don't explain that.
They don't explain that. And two, the art.
Well, I think they explained that like it's a byproduct of the new world.
The new world being unstable, yeah.
Yeah, that's basically all you get.
The art book basically says like this is important because it's the future of Xenoblade, and I'm like,
yes. So like you made mention of that to me, and like that quote kept coming through my head. I was like, okay, so what's the future of Xenoblade after this then? Because like it doesn't really seem like that. It's just
right.
Hey, we're wrapping it up. I was expecting at one point we would see something from 2.
I was expecting some kind of like new thing that would lead into like
I was expecting like a new
3.
thing, or you would see some like hint at something that's happening in 2 as well.
Yeah.
While all this is happening, but you don't get either of those. So
no,
I wonder if that's just like a mistranslation, or
it might be. But I sent you that quote when I first got the art book, and I'm like, that's interesting. But
that doesn't seem to be the case here.
It does not seem to be the case. It mainly just seems like a wrap up.
Yeah, and it's a fine one at that.
Yeah. It's also really cool that they got Melia's voice actress back, because she's like actually like a big important star now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like she was in Doctor Who after this.
Oh, huh.
So she was like one of the companions for Doctor Who.
So yeah, like they only really get back like Shulk, Melia, and Tyrea as like actual voice characters in this that are like from the original game and everything. So like you see like Ryan, Charla, Fiora, Dunbond at the very end, but yeah, like they're just not voiced. They're just, hey, we're here as well still. Hello.
Yeah, Jenna Coleman is her name. So I was actually kind of shocked that they were able to get her back for that. But that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then like, Adam Howden's been doing Shulk for years now, so
he's been really feeling it.
He's been really feeling it. I love Shulk. He's a good boy. He tries his best. He's a sciencey boy. So yeah, we played Xenoblade.
We did. Would you like to hear about what the creators feel about the future of Xenoblade?
I definitely would.
In May 2018, series creator Tetsuya Takahashi pitched a new game concept to Nintendo. The first production group known for their work on Xenoblade Chronicles series started development on a new project in August 2018 after Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Torn of the Golden Country went gold. In October 2018, the first production division of Monolith Soft, led by Tetsuya Takahashi, started hiring for a new role-playing game project in the style of previous Xenoblade Chronicles titles. As of 2020, the production group is currently focused on strengthening the Xenoblade Chronicles brand for the foreseeable future, leaving no room for a smaller-scale game outside of the series. Takahashi said that while a continuation of Xenoblade Chronicles Cross is possible, the next game may go in a different direction, as he often gets bored with the last project. In addition to pursuing a new direction for the series producer Ko Kojima expressed an interest in making a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles Cross 2. So essentially, who knows?
Who knows?
Like, it could be Chronicles 3 or it could be Xeno blank.
Yeah.
The new thing.
I'd play it whatever it is.
I'm sure you would. But yeah, that's Xenoblade Chronicles.
And Future Connected.
A fantastic product. Future Connected.
Both of them are fantastic products. I'm so glad it's finally pretty. Like, It was so nice to see it like the way that it should have been seen. Oh, I got a little bit weepy like the first time that I got onto Bionis leg, and like everything, the music started up and you see it, you're like, oh. But then Citral Marsh is my favorite place. It will always be my favorite place. I full on was crying when I got there. It was beautiful. Beautiful. This is everything I wanted. Anyway, I'm done.
Now you got it.
I love it. I only put 104 hours into both versions.
Only.
I'm just saying, like, with 140 being my normal, like the improvements for this with the way that they do quest tracking, everything, fantastic. Makes this so much better. I was able to knock out a lot of time. So I had 94 hours into the main line, and then I had like 10 hours roughly into Future Connected.
Mm-hmm.
Which we didn't even mention the upgrades, but like there are a lot of upgrades that makes this a much, much more pleasant experience.
And a lot of like quality of life stuff that really helps like streamline the experience as well.
Mm-hmm. Which if anyone's played Xenoblade Chronicles, the original version, or the 3DS version, there is a like black bean that is in the Bionis interior that used to have the worst drop rate of all time. And they have upped that drop rate. I got it very quickly.
Nice.
Yay.
Well, there you go. That's Xenoblade Chronicles. In a nutshell.
Yay! What a good game.
And that's going to wrap this episode up.
Uh-huh.
So if you'd like more from us, go to seasonalcheckup.com or sec.cool, where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Seasonal Checkup and Seasonal... Nope, that's this podcast. Jared and I watch. That's the first time I've done it on this podcast, I think. You also find columns reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Anladium, go to anladium.com. She's got columns reviews. Find us on Twitter, twitter.com/anime checkup, and you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SACOVA. Buy us a slice of pizza. Get access to unedited versions of this podcast and bonus episodes as well. Next week, we will talk about... something.
I don't know. Get a hot cup of